Hello, beautiful soul. We have actually been expecting you and awaiting your arrival. We have a very beautiful transmission that is anchored in from the Kabbalah today because it may feel like you're everywhere, but you're not, okay? Of course, you are everywhere and everything all at once simultaneously, but in this localized vessel, there are particular themes, or shall we call it today, 5 stages of the soul in which you're moving through. As a multidimensional being, as the interdimensional being that you are, you're constantly phasing in and out of these different dimensions, and they're ancient states of consciousness that the soul remembers, even if the mind doesn't. So I'm seeing this session today be a time where the mind is catching up with what the soul already knows. So I'm not really going to be teaching you anything new. I'm only going to be revealing to you. I'm hearing excavating, giving you the opportunity to excavate. I'm hearing sending you an invitation to excavate something that already lies within this deep, intelligent being that you are, who are a highly intelligent being. So let's talk about the 5 stages of the soul. What we're going to cover today is nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yachidah. Okay, so these are 5 stages of the soul. We are going to break them down so that this doesn't really get too complicated. This should be pretty straightforward to actually follow through. And I'm hearing also discern which one you're moving through. So let's go ahead and begin with nefesh. Nefesh is the instinctual soul. And this is all about survival. It's about themes of physicality, impulse, and habit. It's the animal soul, the part of you that feels hunger, fatigue, desire, reacts quickly, seeks comfort, routine, safety, also gets triggered and could get attached to people and patterns. This is where most people live unconsciously. You're nefesh when you're doing things like scrolling or you're triggered, you repeat habits automatically. I'm hearing these are ancestral reinforced thought forms and belief systems and instinctual ways of being. I'm hearing when you fall asleep and disconnect from your body. I'm hearing when your higher self checks out and is not anchored throughout the entire organism that you're utilizing to navigate this construct, you essentially go into autopilot and repeat these ancestral patterns. And it could lead to you feeling stuck. The whole purpose of nefesh is to actually ground you into the physical dimension. It's for your higher self to be anchored throughout the entire organism as you navigate this construct. And the way that they're showing it to me is nefesh is quite literally you tuning into lower octaves of yourself. And when we talk about lower, it's not that higher is good and lower is bad, but it's instead understanding that lower is slower oscillations on a cellular level. So that actually allows you to experience yourself through density. But the mastery of nefesh is going to be not to suppress this instinct, but to become aware of it. This is where you are immersed within the physical plane, but you do not lose yourself as you move through density or moving through these lower octaves of yourself and mistaking yourself for that being all there is. So naturally, the archetype I see nefesh being is the devil archetype. And again, it's not because nefesh is bad or anything like that, but it's because it rules things like the body, right? The physical realm and your instincts, your impulses, your desires, even attachments that you can have to the material plane, and mistaking yourself for all that you are or that being or that there is. All right, that's how I see it, because again, nefesh is the organism. It is actually the physical avatar for you to navigate this construct. It rules things like the reptilian brain, which in its higher service is for you to actually feel safe, secure, and grounded in this vessel as you move through this construct. But this avatar, this organism that you are incarnated into, composed up of trillions of cells, holds within it the DNA, right? Within the nucleus of the cell. You have the memory of you being also non-physical, not just locked in and limited to the physical realm. I'm hearing this is remembering yourself as a limitless being while experiencing yourself through the illusion of limitations, right? Through a dimensionally limited avatar. Because an organism is actually an interface to move between the realms of the limitless and perceived limits that we have in this existence. So yeah, it rules things like unconscious habits, even addiction loops that you can find yourself in, or again, being bound by material reality or bound by the things in which you cannot see. So this could be tuning into fearful timelines of the future. So why it fits is because the devil represents unconscious, the reaction, temptation, physical urges, and patterns that run you instead of you running them. Exactly the nature of nefesh. The second stage of the soul is 𝓂, which is the emotional but also moral soul. This rules things like your feelings, your intuition, your values, and your inner voice. This is where emotional intelligence awakens, consciousness activates. You start discerning right versus wrong. You begin recognizing patterns and you feel pulled towards growth. So you leave nefesh and actually rise up into 𝓂 the moment that you stop reacting and instead you start feeling and reflecting. You're in 𝓂 when a situation makes you introspective, or you feel the truth of something. You may sense a boundary and you may emotionally wake up. The purpose is to guide you into greater alignment, and mastery is to channel emotion into clarity rather than chaos. 𝓂 represents the emotional and moral soul. So the tarot archetype that I see for this is no other than the justice, because the justice is where consciousness awakens. It's where emotional truth rises, balance is restored, and discernment begins. Karma is then processed by the heart. That's why we see in a lot of ancient Egyptian mythology, you have Mahat, which is essentially where the feather of truth, the ostrich feather, is weighed out against the heart, because it's essentially how I'm hearing emotionally developed but also emotionally intelligent a soul is, in being able to understand that resentment is something that weighs heavy on the heart. So forgiveness is essential for you to begin to see your life on earth clearly, because you're looking at life through the lens of the compassionate self, not just being compassionate towards other souls and organisms of consciousness in their own journey of evolution, but also being compassionate towards yourself, because you'll be punished by your anger and not for it. And that resentment will be something that, you know, slowly poisons you, you know? It's like drinking a poison and hoping that it kills your enemy. So this is where your emotions start speaking in very clear language. And why justice fits is because it's all about an inner moral compass that you have, right? This is somebody weighing out the pros and cons of a situation before they respond. They're not just reacting from that nefesh base level of consciousness. This is where your truth is becoming apparent within your body, and you're able to articulate it. You're able to articulate what it is that you need most in that moment and actually facilitate that to yourself. It's about where you come back into that internal harmonic resonance and not allowing your interactions with the material plane to bring you outside of that internal balance. This is where the internal relationship that you cultivate with yourself governs the way that you interact and engage with this matrix, with this system, instead of allowing this external system to govern your internal state. Because otherwise you enter into those parasitism timelines because of those belief systems you hold within yourself. 𝓂 is where feelings meets ethics. That is the moral compass of the justice. The third stage of the soul is neshama, and this represents the higher mind or the witness consciousness. This is gamma perception, right? Where you're tuning into lower brainwave states that allows you to tune into higher dimensional fields of this reality. This is where you're in this world, but you're experiencing an alternate perspective or a complete different version of it, because your perception is shaping and creating the reality I'm hearing that you perceive but also interact with. This is where you understand your interconnectedness to all things and you come into that higher awareness and that introspective truth. It's an octave within you seated at a higher level of understanding, and it's where the human actually begins to train their organism to begin to anchor higher levels of awareness and utilize that as they navigate this gameplay experience. It's where you're no longer just merely moving through this matrix and interacting unconsciously, but you're applying your free will to consciously choose whom and what it is that you want to interact with. You see that the universe is within you, reflected externally. This is where this simulation is an energetic projection of your internal state of being. So it's quite literally, how would I explain this? It's where the universe is speaking to you through everything and everyone around you, and you recognize yourself as everything, but also everything is you. This is your observing self. It's the part of you that can see your patterns, your trauma responses, your motives, your spiritual lessons. This is the state where meditation happens, your shadow work happens, and the aha moment happens for you. When you're in neshama, you become aware of your triggers. You detach enough to understand your behavior, and you feel compassion for your old self. You have a sudden truth or realization. The purpose is to free you from any unconscious loops, and the mastery is to actually begin to understand all lower octaves of yourself without that judgment, without trying to compartmentalize or separate yourself from these lower expressions, because in order to rise to higher levels of awareness and higher states of consciousness, you must first integrate all the levels below you. And not everything needs to look like light in order for it to be light. So this is about source playing with itself through these infinite, different subdivisions essentially, and you're integrating all of these different fractal expressions or manifestations of yourself. Neshama is the higher mind or the witness self. So the only appropriate tarot card for this would be the High Priestess, right? None other. Neshama is self-awareness. It's things like intuition and your inner quiet and watching your own patterns. This is truth without attachment and sitting between these dualities, seeing beneath the surface. Why the High Priestess fits is because she is the witness. She sees what others can't. She is stillness, knowing, and clarity. And neshama is the moment that you step outside of yourself and you begin to understand your own mind. The fourth stage of the soul is 𝓭𝓪, and this represents soul inspiration and divine will. It rules things like your purpose, your intuition, as well as destiny alignment. This is where your intuition is loud, synchronicity is a constant, and your calling gets activated. It's higher guidance that feels incredibly direct as you feel moved by something bigger. This is the energy that you tap into when you create something meaningful. You feel spiritually charged and you follow your deeper purpose. You're in 𝓭𝓪 when you feel guided. The moments that you get chills or downloads or even prophetic flashes. You step into your soul work or you feel deeply connected to your mission. The purpose of 𝓭𝓪 is to align your personal will with your divine will. And the mastery of it is to trust this path before evidence arrives in the physical. 𝓭𝓪 is the soul of destiny, inspiration, and higher will. So the only archetype that I saw fit within the tarot for this would be the star card. The star represents divine inspiration, higher purpose, guidance, destiny activation, downloads, or soul mission kind of energy. Hope, vision, and clarity from above. So why the star fits is because the star is this cosmic guidance. It's this awakening. It's knowing your calling and stepping into your path with this divine confidence. This is exactly what 𝓭𝓪 feels like. The last, final, fifth stage of the soul is 𝓂𝓂. And 𝓂𝓂 is the soul of oneness. This represents things like unity and transcendence, as well as the higher self embodiment. It's the moment that you become your higher self in physical form. It's mastery of this organism, being an interface for you to move between the realms of the form and the formlessness. It's where you get to move through density in this material plane without losing your true core essence and that divine innate intelligence within you in that process. It's not always states that you live in, but it is moments that you touch. This is where everything makes sense. You feel connected to everything and fear disappears. Ego dissolves and you feel your higher self fully. You're in 𝓂𝓭𝓪 when you have a breakthrough that changes your life, or you forgive instantly. It's moments that you feel unconditional love, or you sense your infinite nature. The purpose is to remember who you truly are, and the mastery of 𝓂𝓭𝓪 is surrender. It teaches us the art of surrender in order to be able to tune back into our infinite nature and our interconnectedness to all things. It's the one that sees everything as them and they are everything. There is no compartmentalization. There is just understanding that you're experiencing the illusion of separation. I see 𝓂𝓭𝓪 as the training of this organism. It's where you're able to remember yourself as a universal, multiversal organism that extends far beyond this anatomical vessel, and you see it as an instrument, as a tool for you to navigate this construct. You remember yourself as not this physical body, but instead the timeless consciousness navigating this terrestrial plane, utilizing this vessel as a conduit. It's the moment that you become a conduit because you train this organism, this interface, to actually anchor in these higher levels of awareness that extend and branch far beyond this construct back to your point of origin, and you anchor that back into this matrix or this gameplay experience. The archetype in the tarot that I see being fit for 𝓂𝓭𝓪 is the world, because the world is about union with source, feeling whole, the completion of cycles, moments of transcendence, and understanding pattern and feeling infinite. No separation between the self and the divine. Why the world card fits is because the world represents unity, fulfillment, cosmic integration, and stepping into the true self beyond form. That is the exact energy signature of 𝓂𝓭𝓪. The most fascinating part that I find about these 5 stages of the soul is that it's not a ladder that you're climbing upwards as you move through your life on a day-to-day basis, but it's more like levels that you're constantly oscillating in and out of. You're continuously phasing in and out of these different dimensional fields, but it's whether you're aware of that. So can you catch yourself when you're in Nefesh? Can you catch yourself as you begin to ascend into higher frameworks of thinking or viewing, your experience on this planet essentially, and on your life? Because that intercommunication between these different octaves, between plasma, actually shifts the way that you feel about your journey on earth, particularly emotionally. It's extremely healing because you're integrating all parts of the self, all parts of the soul, and recognizing them as this unified field of creation that is playing with itself through the illusion of separation. So that moment that you can observe your own lower thought forms of nefesh and move into ruach, this is the moment that you recognize yourself as not the thoughts, but the awareness behind them. And then you begin to again move into this deeper journey inwards to the true self, towards the core essence of your being. For example, when you feel triggered, you're in nefesh, but the moment that you reflect on that trigger, you instantaneously elevate into a higher octave of yourself, ruach. Then you see truth, where you're in neshama. From there, you move into feeling guided and how to navigate this construct, where you're in chaya. Then you'll have a breakthrough in 𝓂𝓭𝓪, but you'll go and make dinner afterwards and you'll fall back into nefesh. And that's not a bad thing, right? You're constantly moving in and out of these dimensions, and it's very normal. Spiritual work is to not always stay in these higher states of consciousness, but is to move through these different realms of consciousness and do it consciously, right? To be aware of moving between these different dimensions, moving between these different states of yourself, embracing these different octaves of yourself, because you're all of them, but also none of them simultaneously, consciously. So that's the goal. That is the goal. I hope that you found this session illuminating for you. I hope that it was enlightening for you, and it really just illuminated the things that your soul already knew, but the mind is finally playing catch up with. If you enjoyed this message, make sure to subscribe and stick around for future readings. We would love to have you around if you're not already. Also check out Auto Spirit if you're looking for some high quality AAE grade jewelry. Also, let me know, guys, in the comment section down below. Did you feel yourself shifting through this session? Did you find yourself becoming conscious of those shifts? I wonder. How aware, how self-aware are you in your multidimensionality? So I hope to speak to you guys very, very soon. You have 2 discount codes in the description box for Auto Spirit. Also, personal reading details are down below if you feel guided. And until next time, bye.
Clouds in the sky, don't care if I stay all day. Dreaming of time when you and I would